Tommy Stinson from Cowboys in the Campfire. You're listening to All Over the Place podcast, where the funsanity never ends. And I mean it.
Hello, All Over the Place listeners. Eric Pervoznik back with you for yet another episode of All Over the Place. You knew that. That's why you're here. So, unfortunately, this week, Marty will not be joining us. He's feeling a little bit under the weather. My friend, I hope you are feeling better sooner than later. Although I have been told he will be joining us in the chat room. So looking forward to input from him as the show progresses. Jim Culver is here, though. How you doing, JC?
I'm very good, sir. How about yourself?
Fantastic. I'm feeling it this week, and I'm very excited. We're going to be welcoming in a guy that I saw open up for Geoff Tate last year at the Celebrity Theater here in Phoenix, Mark Daly of Mark Daly and the Ravens when they're out on the road live, his band, the Ravens. So looking forward to having Mark on the show in a few minutes. And yeah, it's good times here. And, I want to let people know as we, I'll mention this before we close as well, but we've got a great lineup coming up in the next few weeks. And I could not be more excited as we get 2023 rocking and rolling. Coming up next week, we're going to be in the studio, the virtual studio, with Josh from the Vandaliers, another band I've seen open up for a couple of artists over the last few years. And he's coming, and David Morrell, the author of First Blood, Creepers, Beyond. I'm looking forward to having him in.
Right
and
on.
Yeah, it's you can tell us who else we're going to be having on the show, Jim, since you're the one who got the word out to him initially, because we've got a date secured with him as well for recording.
A fine gentleman by the name of Jacob Smith, who is a movie reviewer and podcaster over at society-reviews.com. Writes some excellent reviews and always has some fascinating thoughts on current state of pop culture. Looking forward to that.
Yeah, I told you at the end of last year, folks, we were just getting warmed up. I do not lie, or I try not to lie anyway. And I never lie on purpose. Let's put it that way. I'm never an asshole on purpose. I just stumble across it sometimes.
That's your story and you're sticking to it, right?
I will stick to it. Yes, I will. I never try. I'm just drawn that way, as a buxom femme fatale once said. So, but all credit on that one. I got to throw a shout out to Christine, our producer, and yes, my girlfriend, the love of my life. We're just rocking and rolling this podcast, and it's all credit where it's due. So yeah, looking forward to everything we've got coming up, and got some concert tickets too. This is a good year. Metallica is in the books. Got our seats for that with Mammoth WVH and Pantera opening. Although I don't know if you heard about this. Learned earlier today that Pantera has been dropped from 2 upcoming festivals that they were on due to Phil Anselmo, their lead singer, apparently went off on a couple of white power rants in their shows, some lengthy ones. And yeah, he's getting a little toxic there. These are not the things you want when you're out there and performing for people, or at any time, to be perfectly honest. I mean, there's no place for that in today's world. So, so maybe I'll see Pantera later this year. Maybe I won't. I don't know. But Metallica's in the books, and Titus Andronicus, a new band that I've learned of in the last year or so. Big Replacements influence. Got tickets for that. And the next show is band I haven't seen in a long time, but I'm looking forward to them to playing a small club out here, the old 97s. So very excited for that one. Yeah. Very so cool. It's this 2023. I'm digging it so far. So yeah, a lot of it has to do with music, but yeah, that's how it goes around here. Oh, and just very quickly, and we will discuss this on a later show more in depth. But saw the who cares about that stuff right now? That was a teaser, folks. A teaser you're not going to find out about. It'll be the Oscars. The Oscar nominations came out today, but who cares? Yep. Because I see that Mark Daly is now with us. Mark, how are you, sir?
Hello. How's it going?
Going quite well, thank you. And Mark, I want to introduce you to Jim, my co-host. Jim, Mark, Jim.
Hey, Jim.
Good to meet you, Mark.
Good to meet you too.
And Jim, Mark is calling from all the way over in Ireland, and as our first international guest, I don't have a prize for you, Mark, but congratulations, you're our first international guest.
I'll take it.
A lifetime supply of rice-a-roni used to be the way prizes were given, but anyway, I can't even do that. But you're over there in Cork, Ireland, correct?
That's right.
So the Irish, as far as I'm concerned, greatest storytellers in the world. Followed closely by baseball players and maybe some other athletes and fishermen, of course. But like you've got your James Joyce, Bram Stoker, Oscar Wilde, C.S. Lewis. In recent years, Roddy Doyle popping up. Such a rich heritage of storytelling. And as an Irishman, how do you tap into that heritage and condense that into a 3 to 5 minute song?
Well, I suppose growing up, like you see music all the time. You see like art all the time on the streets. Even my parents, like it was normal to just go into a pub when you were a kid and be thrown a packet of crisps and sit in the corner with a drink and to be somebody playing music or something. So you're just around it in Ireland from the earliest of ages.
And how old were you when you remember going in and getting your first taste of not just the good drinks, but the music?
As early as I can, like 4 or 5 years old, I can remember my not drinking a pint or anything.
That's off the record. We don't want to get your parents in any possible trouble. That's fine. I got my sips from Pabst Blue Ribbon from my uncle, but yeah.
Yeah, no, that came later. But going into the bars and seeing music and hearing traditional Irish music, that goes back as far as I can remember.
Nice. And of course, Van Morrison, still, the icon of the Emerald Isle. Here's a guy still cranking out, as far as I'm concerned, two of the best albums of the last year, double albums at that. And he's just trickling singles out now too, still cranking out the awesomeness. And
he's unbelievable.
And where do you see yourself doing this 30, 40 years down the line?
I'd love to just still be doing it. Like, I'd be grateful for that. But I can see myself obviously being a bit more laid back then and not roaring out the songs every night. But I'm always kind of evolving as a musician, and maybe that will be in 30, 40 years' time. It might be an acoustic record or a laid back thing.
Oh, come on, man. Don't sell yourself short. I saw Van the Man last year, and he a little more subdued than the first time I saw him. So, but I can only imagine, the energy that he brought to the stage was still doing just an amazing job. So I'm not going to sell yourself short just yet.
Music does keep you young, to be fair.
You're not a tremendous slouch. Don't sell yourself short. And in the now though, you've got actually I want to speak of the more contemplative nature versus just rocking out. Your previous albums and the material has been of a bit more of a contemplative nature, and but with the EP now, and I'm going to guess moving forward as that segues into the album that's going to be coming out on the heels of it this year. Where was that switch that you flipped, and how much influence did someone like Sasha Paith, who's worked with Avantasia, being the producer for your new stuff? When did you decide to get more rockin' and a little bit less contemplative?
He was like really important in that, because I was in a band for years before I went under as Mark Daly. I was in a band called the Voodoos. Mm-hmm. We're like an Irish rock band, and we got to tour around the US as well, and we played quite a bit and got a little name for ourselves and did quite well. And then when that came to an end, that was like a hard rock stuff, quite similar to what I'm releasing right now. And then I did more of a laid back record. It was kind of fooling around with some styles. And then after that record, I said, no, I really want to go back I want to go hard rock. I want to rock out on stage again. I want to just really let myself, I think with the record, just tell everything that I have, all the aggression, everything built up inside. I just wanted to let that go. So Sasha was absolutely the right man for that, because he actually usually works with heavy metal bands. Camelot, Rhapsody of Fire, all these great bands. And when I heard an Avantasia record, because he's guitar player and producer for all the Avantasia records. Mm-hmm. And when I heard the Moonglow album, when that came out, I was just like, oh my God, because Geoff featured on that. So I was like, hey, Geoff, can you put in a good word for me with Sasha? I ended up borderline stalking him because I flew to London to go see an Avantasia gig because I knew Geoff was performing and I knew I'd get backstage after. And I said, that's where I'll corner Sasha and be like, hey, please. I was like, you don't know me, but please do my record. So I did. I flew to London, said a quick hello to him backstage, and then it didn't really work to corner him, or it just, the environment wasn't right, and he was gone and back to the hotel, and I was like, damn it. So I went back to Ireland and I recorded some acoustic raw demos of these songs that ended up on the EP and record, and I just let it all out, sent it to him. And obviously at the time we were in lockdown, and all his projects just stopped because he's working with bands all the time, all around the world. And all those projects stopped, and he actually had time to just listen and check it out. And he was like, weirdly enough, this is exactly what I want to do. I want to work with someone raw, rock and roll. He's always been doing heavy metal, and he was like, I've really wanted to do a project like this. So he said, perfect timing, perfect place. And we waited till lockdown was lifted, and I went over to Germany. And within 30 seconds of spending time with him, I knew, it was like, oh my God, this is perfect. And we just got lost in it I did a week, maybe 8-9 days, came home, and then went back out again and finished the record.
So you've got 4 songs on the EP that's currently out, and how many more are you finishing up now that's going to be on the album, which is still going to be called Peace in the Panic, correct?
Peace in the Panic is going to be the album, and I think there'll be 11 or 12 tracks on it. I actually have to go back and do one more song in Germany, and I'll be going back in the next week or two to finalize that. So really excited.
Well, if history has proven anything, at least with a lot of my favorite bands, it'll be the last song that you do that will be the big hit.
It's funny, you hear that quite a lot, isn't it? One of the songs on the record that was probably my least favorite, to be honest with you. And I was like, and then I showed a few people, and they're like, that's the best song on the record. And I was like, what?
What do you know, Mark? What do you know?
I know. I was like, okay. But then I kind of could see it. Like, it's really hard to, like, when you're listening to yourself and you're critiquing yourself, it's just different to what people hear, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Well, I've got to tell you, and Gotta Run is quite possibly my favorite on the EP. And I just love the message within it. I mean, like, if you're going through, I mean, don't put up with shit. If someone's dragging you down, don't be with them anymore. And I've actually made it a companion piece to one of my favorite Chuck D songs, Generation Wrecked, which contains the immortal line, if I can't change the people around me, I change the people around me.
Exactly.
And so for you as a songwriter and as a performer, how does it feel to know that you've inspired someone like me and hopefully others to just put crap behind them? And also, to be in the same sentence with the rhyme animal, the uncannibal Chuck D.
I absolutely love it. That is awesome. That song, I really, I get an uplift from it as well. So it was like one of those things where I wanted to be positive. I wanted to be, like you said, no shit. Just like, if you're not happy with something, walk away, change it up. You hear that a lot with motivational speeches and stuff like that. And I don't know, I really love how that one turned out. It's got a rock sound, not too far away from kind of like the Foo Fighters or something like that. It's got that kind of 3-minute radio kind of thing as well, which I thought was really cool. Just the whole style of it, and delighted with it, to be honest with you.
So, well, maybe you've got your first hit right there, and you don't have to wait to like have the last song written being, This Time. Like, go through.
I released, that was the first one I released.
Okay.
The very first track off the EP. And then actually it was just a single first before the EP. Mm-hmm. And then I ended up hooking up with a record label in the US a couple of months ago. So it didn't really get any, like, there was no promotion behind it. There was no proper music video. We just released it in Ireland. And luckily in the first week it went to #1 in the Irish rock charts, on the download charts. With some nice support at home. But after that, it kind of just fell off and disappeared. And I was like, damn it. I thought that. So now working with the label, we kind of have a strategy, doing some marketing promotion and stuff. So I really think we can bring that one back to life and give it a bit more of a push.
Second life. It won't be the first or last time that happens with a band. So I hope so. Well, and that's one of the things I really liked about you when I call you open for Geoff Tate here in Phoenix, and just the energy that was coming off of that stage was so awesome. And what I also dug was, after your set, go downstairs, wanted to buy some merch, wanted to introduce myself to you, get you on the show. And what I was just thought was so amazing was the amount of people who followed after me, and just that line was down the hallway. So I think just the great reaction that you're getting from people, and what's that been like, not just in Phoenix, but all across the country as you toured.
It's kind of just crazy to see. Like, we'd finish the show, so I would say to the crowd, "Look, we got to sell some merch here." And I was like, so I said, "There's an interval before Geoff starts. If you've enjoyed the show, come up and say hi at the merch booth. I'll sign some EPs, and it'd be great to say hi." And every night it blew my mind. Like, it never wore off. Just coming down to the merch, like I go backstage, drop my guitar, and then literally run out.
Well, and I apologize for taking up so much of your time. You could have gotten some more autographs in. I'm sorry, Mark Daly fans. I'll take the heat on that one. So, and I liked how you presented that too. And Jim and I both Catholic, so that was some great Catholic guilt in action. Come down by the merch, or my kid. I got to buy. My kids are Christmas is coming up. Nicely played. I like that. Have we lost Mark?
I think he might have dropped off there.
I see he's still connected. And Blockchain DXB, thanks for joining us here on the show and then the listening. Let me see what's.
Yeah.
Nope, he's still here.
Oh, I think he's back.
Mark, are you there? I heard that big electronic wow. Yeah. And yes, I do sound effects for a living, folks. That wow that happened, and then and back for there. I see him back up in the listeners area.
Can you hear me?
Mark, are you there?
Oh, what happened? I lost it there.
I don't know. But I was just saying, with the merch and just seeing people, and I wanted to apologize to the other Mark Daly fans there at the Phoenix show. I took up so much of your time, but it was like Jim and I are both Catholics, and the way that you got inspired, that little touch of Catholic guilt you got in there to come up. Christmas is coming up for the kids, so make sure you come down and buy some merch, okay?
It worked a treat. It was great. And I said, people come up and they're like, "We got to support the kids." And I was like, I said, "I got you."
It's Christmas. Now, and one of the songs that, I don't really, I want to get into, like, just dropping singles and dropping EPs in today's culture where, like, physical product isn't selling what it used to, and, just dropping a single, whether it's Spotify, iTunes, or wherever. And as a songwriter, as a performer, how do you, or do you even alter the way that you write music now? Or do you come up with like 4 or 5 songs you want to put out an EP, or do you just do it like a trickle effect as it comes out, put it out there, and if you happen to put it on a physical product later, do it that way?
This record was just planned to be a full album, and there was no EPs or anything planned. I thought I'd just do a single or 2 and then release the record. But then the US tour popped up, and the album wasn't ready to go. So I said, "Hey, we should really not go empty-handed to the US without something to show with the new stuff." So we rushed through that EP, Nothing to Lose, and picked 4 songs that we thought were rocking and something that would show what's going to come from the record. And I'm so glad we did that. Even now, we're looking to just push the record out right after the tour, but I think we're going to do another EP. It works so well, and it introduces people, because, like, at those shows in the US, like 95% of the crowd wouldn't have ever heard of us and stuff. So it's a slow building thing, but one that we got such a great reaction for. I think we're starting a tour in Europe in March. And instead of coming out with the record now, I think we're going to do another EP, and the Nothing to Lose EP hasn't been toured at all in Europe. So we have to slow down a little bit. And now that we have a label that have a plan and stuff like that, it's great, because I'm too fast paced. I'm like, let's release a record and let's do another record. Someone needs to pull me in.
You sound like my man Prince. Just put out the music. Just keep putting it out. Keep putting it out. And Billy Idol, two years in a row, 2 EPs. Not quite as prolific as Van Morrison putting out 2 double albums 2 years in a row, but EPs. It's again just to get it out there so people have something in their hands. And I do apologize. I don't have a working CD player anymore, so I'm waiting for that vinyl. I've read somewhere that you prefer vinyl, so I'll wait for the album proper before I get.
We're going to have vinyl for the full record for sure. It's amazing how popular it is again.
It's been fun getting back into the vinyl revival, but and not nearly as expensive as I thought it would be. $3 records, they're out there, and I'm finding them.
I'm the same. I was up in Derry, County Derry there recently, and I got I found an old Operation Mindcrime from the 80s sitting in a record store for I think it was €4, maybe €5. And I got it, and I was like, I'm going to get Geoff to sign this. It might.
I was going to say, yeah, I think you've got someone who might want to sign that for you.
But then it's one of those things because you get it, and I'm like, nobody's ever having this.
Yeah, actually, that was I saw them open for Metallica on the Justice for All tour. So that was my introduction to the Reich in a live setting. So,
wow.
Yeah. And speaking of Queensryche, and you of course Geoff got involved on the Facing My Demons song from the Voodoos. And that was right after he had his acrimonious break, for better or worse, with Queensryche. How did you and Geoff meet and hook up and get him involved with that song and beyond now?
It was through Ireland, through Geoff's wife visited Ireland and accidentally came to a show. We were down in a place in West Cork playing a show, and it was a voodoo show, and she came up and was like, "Are these your songs?" And we were like, "Yeah." She's like, "Can you play more of these songs?" And I was just jamming out our original songs, and she came up and she was like, "Are they really your songs?" I was like, "Yeah." And then she said, come talk to me after the show. She just really, really got into the band. And I did, even though the guys in the band were just like, it's just someone just wanting to chat. And I went up and had a pint of Guinness at the bar. And myself and Susan just instantly became really, really great friends. I suppose that was about 11 years ago now. And we've been great friends since. Within a few weeks of meeting, we were on the Queensryche tour. And our first show was Washington, D.C. at the 9:30 Club. And we went from a pub to 10 people in the pub to a sold out Washington, D.C. 9:30 Club. It was insane.
Nice.
And then I just instantly hit it off with Geoff. He became so supportive of the band, so supportive of my songwriting. I got involved writing on some of his records as well over the last few years. And we're just really good buddies. He comes to Ireland quite a bit and brings me out on the road, which I'm really, really grateful for.
I know I really had a great time. He was on the predecessor to this podcast was Radio Free Fredonia, and he came on when they were promoting American Soldier. And I'll always be indebted to him for that. Just as you know better than I do, just a cool dude, and just one of the greatest voices I think hard rock metal will ever know.
It's unbelievable. And he's belting out Queen of the Reich on that whole tour like it was nothing.
Still, exactly. Queen of the Reich. Jesus Christ, that was awesome. So,
it's unbelievable.
And you and he share a certain amount of band members right now too. And I unfortunately didn't get to see you come out and play any songs there at the end. I was kind of hoping you would come out and sing the Christmas song at our at the stop here. And
I was talked about, but I ducked out of that one pretty well.
Fair enough. Was there any other point on the tour where Geoff has you've come out there and joined them for any songs? And
I think because I was doing them, because I've been doing my own merch and stuff like that. So I just hopped off, and so anything that would happen like that, I might not even be behind the stage or anything like that for it. So I just kept myself working because right now, like, merch is really the most important thing on tour.
Absolutely, yeah.
So that we can keep going. I mean, a US visa to come work out there is insane, but totally worth it. It was unbelievable.
Now, is there any particular Reich song you would want to do, or a solo song from Geoff that you would want to join him on stage to belt out with him?
I would love to do a song that we wrote together called "The Fight," and I think some of his shows on this upcoming tour in March in Germany. I think some of those have those records that we wrote on together mixed into the set list. So hopefully we can do the song. It's a song from the Key album that he released called "The Fight." So that would be really cool to do that one together.
Very cool indeed. Now, and Geoff did us on the Queensryche album, on American Soldier, the song "Home Again." He did
Yes.
with his daughter.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, and you're out on the road, you've got a wife, kids back home and all that. So, I mean, that song obviously hits, I think, with any musician or any soldier that, that Geoff was writing in reference to on that album. But how does a song like that hit you and inspire you to maybe write your own Home Again?
It really does, especially on the road, like having young kids at home, and you'd give anything to go home for, just to see them and stuff like that. So that song does. I remember checking out more of the catalog when the Voodoos were going on tour with Queensryche, and I remember YouTubing that song that I hadn't heard before, and I was like, wow, that's really powerful, and it's crazy seeing his daughter in that, who's now like well into her 20s. It's mad.
She was what I think all of 13 or 14. And I got to see her perform that with them when they played in front of Chickenfoot down at Universal Amphitheater. So
wow.
Yeah, she's the pipes come in the family, no doubt about that.
Absolutely.
I got to admit, I haven't heard any of Geoff's stuff since he split with Queensryche. So, I mean, is he putting out kind of the same vibe as he was back then, or is it a little different nowadays?
There's been experimental stuff, and then there's been heavy stuff. I know he's working on some stuff right now. It's really heavy. And then there's some laid back ones as well. And it's a real funky, cool style. But if you're going to check out anything, check out The Fight, because I get royalty on that.
Fair enough.
I've already written that one down to revisit the Key album. No doubt about that.
Yeah, there's a song, Life or Death on that record that I actually sing on as well on the record, which is really cool.
And Jim, also something that I got 4 years ago now, but he did an album with Sweet Oblivion, which was one of my favorite albums of that year. And he did vocals on that album.
It was a great record.
So, and unfortunately, one of our other co-hosts, Marty, wasn't able to join us today, but he did. There's a great question that he wanted me to ask you. And you mentioned, with the Voodoos going out on tour that first time, like playing, to 5-10 people in a small club, and then the next thing you're in front of this huge crowd at the 930 Club. And first off, small town gigging here versus in Ireland and Europe, and just what is it a similar vibe, or just what's the feeling like, and what's the scene like comparatively?
Like the difference between gigging in the US and in Ireland, is that what you mean?
Well, yeah, and I guess also like when you start out, I mean, are you just are you busking? Are you're playing to you start with 5 people and it grows as the band gains a little bit more notoriety and popularity.
Oh yeah, like what we kind of had to do was we had to play covers to get gigs in Ireland. And it's really cover oriented. Like gigs it's really hard to get original gigs. So what we would do is just we'd build up as many cover gigs, and then we'd sneak in our songs, and we'd start getting a really cool following with those gigs, and then people would start saying, "Hey, is that song yours?" And we just started playing it more regularly, and eventually we worked up to original gigs because we could bring people to it and make it worthwhile for the venue. So it was really we were doing probably like 5 or 6 nights a week, just to build up that for a long time. So we eventually got there, which I suppose led to the opportunity in the US.
And then when you're playing US clubs, I mean, did you do anything, or how much did you do with the Voodoos before you got on to a big tour? Did it just go straight into you were just opening up for Queensryche and the Operation Mindcrime stuff?
Yeah, it went from 0 to 100. It was just like it was crazy. And then shortly afterwards, we did that run with Queensryche, and then back in Europe, there was the MTV EMA Awards started doing a competition for a band in Europe to open up the whole ceremony, the whole show, because it was on in Belfast, and we applied with one of our songs, I think there was over 10,000 bands entered, and we ended up winning that out of the 10,000 bands and ended up opening up that. So that was like, 15 or 20,000 people in front of us and a massive audience around the world. So that was a real Kickstarter for the band. And then we ended up doing a couple of more tours from that. And that's kind of what kicked it off as a professional career, I suppose.
And you mentioned doing 5-6 nights a week when Voodoo's starting out, and which is the traditional way of doing things. And now in the 21st century, we've got shows like American Idol or So You Want to Be a Star, where people just kind of get thrust in. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. Whatever, as far as I'm concerned, whatever gets people hearing new music. I'm not a fan of manufactured pop or Nashville style country pop, but there's an audience for it. I get it. So, I mean, just for you as a singer, songwriter, and performer, what I guess discuss for me like the pros and cons that you feel like earning your keep out on the road versus just like jumping into it and being on TV and winning a contest.
I kind of like the grind of it, to be honest. I think it's like we've been doing this. Like I've been doing this now for, like I said, 11 or 12 years. Like with the original music. And it's been a slow build. It really has. And it's been tough to build it. But I feel like everybody that's behind me and supporting me really genuinely care. So it might not be this overnight success thing that people, tends to happen every now and then. But I love working and touring and building it up bit by bit, because that last tour, the support we got in it in the run in December and January, I was like, oh my God, the new set and the new songs are going down so well. It just makes it worth it that I've just been figuring it out as I go along. Had to write a couple of dodgy songs to get to the good ones, and it feels like it's in a really good place right now. And the support is reflecting that.
Well, I'm certainly looking forward to more. That's for sure. It's I love live music, and after being bottled up and for almost 2 years, I made up for lost time last year, and you guys were second to last show I saw last year. So definitely it's
Nice.
looking forward to seeing you guys again. And I wanted to, Jim, Jim, your son, I mean, there was one of the songs that you and I were talking in particular from Mark's catalog popped out on you. And did you want to jump in on that one with Your World?
There was there's a really, really beautiful song called Your World, and it really kind of spoke to me as a dad, and who has some experience with kids dealing with difficulties. And so I was kind of wondering if you could tell the story behind that song.
Absolutely. It's definitely the most personal one I've written, but I remember it was shortly after my son was diagnosed with autism, and I was at home. And typically not being like vocal about what's going on and trying to just deal with it in my own way. And then there was one night at home, I just sat down and the song just poured out of me. Is the only way I can describe it. I just sat down and it just came out. Like there was no thinking about lyrics or anything or chords. It just came out. And I had my laptop and I just did a recording on my laptop of it. And my wife got home from work. And I was like, oh, I'm after writing a song, because she knows that's how I deal with my emotions. And I just said, yeah, this one's about Noah. And I was like, do you want to have a listen? So she listened and she cried her eyes out. And I said, oh, she was like, you have to release this. And I said, it's way too personal. I don't want to release it. And then she's like, that's exactly why you should release it. So we did release it within a few months. We did it in Autism Awareness Month, and we did a charity here in Ireland and released it and put the proceeds to that charity. And it was really, really amazing. I've been getting messages from families and parents all around the world since I released it, which is just crazy. And it's amazing that it touches people the same way as I felt writing it.
Yeah, it definitely strikes a chord for certain people, definitely.
And the last night on the tour, we finished off in Fort Lauderdale last week, and I just said to the boys that I just feel like it was a sitting down venue. It was like a full, like a packed night, and I just felt, I was like, I haven't played it on the tour at all, and it just felt right. So we finished up our set, and the boys walked off, and I just said, hey, I'm going to play this song, and finished the night off, and it was just insane. Like I look down and I see people crying in the crowd, like in a good way. Um, and people speaking to me at the merch afterwards, saying how the song affected them and how it meant what it meant to them with their families and stuff. It was quite emotional.
Cathartic cries are good. Those are the good kind of cry. So.
Exactly.
Indeed.
And another song, another thing Marty wanted me to get in for you, Mark. And you mentioned, you know, any band when they start, they got to do the covers because that's what clubs like to hear. It brings people in, get some drinking, all that stuff. Now, Marty wanted to know, what cover song would you want to do and put your own spin on it and possibly put it out there for release?
Funny you should say that, because I was just talking about this with the boys last week. And I said to the guys, what about Jailbreak by Thin Lizzy, and do a really cool version like of that tune, because I absolutely love that song. And I think obviously Thin Lizzy are a huge band and stuff, but it would be amazing to cover them and to do something really cool and modern with that.
And maybe throw in a bridge of AC/DC's Jailbreak?
Exactly. Mix it together just to be extra cool.
It's all greatness. I mean, it's Phil and Bon and all the guys. So, and now, and I in looking over some of past interviews of yours, I saw that Kiss was kind of like your milestone moment. Hearing them for the first times, where you said, "This is what I want to do."
Yeah, bands like that was, thank God it was my dad, because he listened to, like in Ireland, we don't have like any radio stations that will play anything like that. It's like, 5 or 6 radio stations in the country who all play the same songs. That's,
Same here.
yeah, and it's like, yeah, and I'm glad that my dad used to like just blare Led Zeppelin and Pink Floyd and ELO and Kiss and all these things in the car, because I was like, what is this? And it just blew my mind, and I was like, this is what everyone should be listening to, right? And I'm grateful for that, because I could have easily just been listening to the radio and gone a completely different road.
My grandfather owned a bar, so my earliest implanted memories to a large degree was me reaching up at the ceiling trying to sing in Knock 3 Times by Tony Orlando and Dawn, and Three Dog Night 1 and Joy of the World and all that. But my dad, God bless him, he gave me AC/DC when I was 5 or 6 years old.
Nice.
And when they were first breaking here, WMMS in Cleveland was one of the first bands that ever played them here in the States before they had any contracts here. And I returned the favor because I gave Dad Van Halen and Metallica. I felt that was only right.
That was a pretty good return right there.
No, but with Kiss, that them being one of your early bands, or ELO, which one of your songs would you want Kiss to play?
I can't imagine them playing any of them.
But if Paul Stanley, if Gene could market it properly, he would want to. So what song would you give him for Kiss to do?
I suppose I would have to pick Nothing to Lose, that track. It's probably a nice heavy one. It's got a cool beat. I'd say they could do something cool with that. That'd be great.
And as we wrap things up here, though, I want to, and once again, Mark, thanks for coming on the show. And again, I'm looking forward to when you're back here in the States, and definitely when you're swinging through Phoenix or close enough in Vegas. Definitely looking forward to seeing you guys again. But for those unfortunate few here in our listening on the all over the place listening crowd, may not know of you. So which 3 songs in your catalog would you introduce to a newbie to get them on walking the right road to Mark Daly and the Ravens?
That's a good question. Probably to show some versatility. Maybe just, I would say, Gotta Run, to get you positive, upbeat, rock and roll. And then to go a bit darker and weirder and show a different side. There's a song called Addicted to the Throne.
Love that one. Yep.
And that one's kind of got like this creepy, dark vibe, but like really cool production, and like lots of eerie, weird sounds, but just different. And then I'd finish with Nothing to Lose, because it's probably my favorite to play live and probably my favorite to listen to.
Amen to that. That was the one that hooked me. That whole night was awesome. And actually, I'll check in with you after. I wouldn't mind getting a set list from that night so I could put it up on setlist.fm and just make my own little playlist.
Oh, absolutely.
Actually, right now I've got everything. I was just cycling through with it, and I'm glad you brought up Addicted to the Throne. That is a kick-ass song.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're very welcome. Well, and Jim, any things as we wrap up here today?
Just want to say thanks for coming on, and if you're ever up here in Seattle, definitely come check you out.
Absolutely. I actually lived up there for a few years ago and loved it. So hopefully we'll be back because I got a lot of cool friends up there, and it'd be amazing to do a little show to come back.
Oh, and
as someone who's been to Cork, I imagine it made you feel right at home weather-wise being up here.
It really did. I was like, oh my God. I said, oh my God, I'm moving to America and going over there. We got our visa and we said, let's do a year in Seattle and get some followers and geek around the scene there. And I was like, here we go, American weather. And then we got to Seattle. I was like, oh shit.
The wrong city for American weather, man. Sorry.
It's dreary here too. Damn it.
It's exactly the same, which is probably why we get so many moody songs, right?
Well, and I almost
it's pretty
forgot.
hard to imagine Nirvana coming out of LA or Arizona or something. I think it would be a very different vibe coming out of there.
100%.
But getting back to your world, Mark, just one final question for you. If I'm remembering correctly from your Instagram page, that your son joined you guys very briefly on tour.
He did.
And so, and look, he was very extroverted, and it just seemed like he was having the time of his life. And just for you, how does your music help you connect with him?
It's been our biggest connection because, like, even when I was writing that record, I had a room. My bedroom was a studio at the time, and he would just sit in the bed and listen. And he's got perfect pitch, like he's got it's insane. He's really into music. He can play music by ear. But if my guitar is slightly out of tune, he goes like, "Dad, that's disgusting," which always cracks me up. And I can't tune my guitar perfectly by ear at all. I need a tuner. And he is like, he literally goes around and tunes my guitars. And I was on tour in Germany, I think it was in February. And my wife got on to me and was like, he's really, really struggling. He's having a really hard time. I don't know what to do. So we had a 2-day break between the German tour and then we're going to the UK. And I just said, I'm going to come home and take him and bring him out. Everyone thought I was crazy, but we didn't really have a choice at the time because he was struggling so much. And it was unbelievable how well he took to it. He just absolutely loved it. Geoff's wife, Susan, was looking after him while we performed. He was in hotels every night and got really comfortable with hotel life. He was like up late watching cartoons in the hotel, just like kicking back. Absolutely loved Geoff and all the guys. They all got on so well. Everyone treated him like family. And he absolutely loved it. So I'm actually going back to Germany in March and he's going to come out for a week of the tour. It went that well.
You've got your perfect pitch tuner to come with you. I mean,
exactly. You can just come out on stage and tune the guitars.
Why wouldn't you bring him? Well, and that was one of the inspirations for me getting this podcast back and up and running. And it's music, as far as I'm concerned, the great uniter, and a healer. What can't music do? And I think that's awesome. And
it's magic. It is magic.
Well, folks, Mark Daly, be sure you check him out. He's at markdalyofficial.com. That's the website. And it's at Mark Daly Music for Instagram and Facebook, correct?
That's correct.
Well, again, Mark, thanks for coming on. And we're gonna get some tunes out there for you, accompany them here with when we get the podcast up. And I'll get that link out to you. And looking forward to you once you're back in the States, and nothing but best of luck with finishing up the album and UK and German, the Euro tours, and see you when you're back in the States.
Thank you so much, and I really appreciate you having me on, and I really appreciate the support. Really great.
My absolute pleasure, Mark. Thanks again, and
thank you.
Take care.
Cheers.
All right, bye.
Bye.
All right, folks, that's all over the place. We are back in 2023. Music, movies, music. We got a name to live up to, folks. And don't forget, next week from the Vandaliers, we've got lead singer and songwriter Josh coming on. And everybody, thanks for listening. Mark Daly, thanks again. Be sure to check him out, folks, at Instagram, Spotify, iTunes, and markdalyofficial.com, the website. Thanks for listening, everybody. Be back next week. The opinions expressed by the guests are theirs and do not necessarily reflect those of the hosts or the producer.